Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's a roadshow Thursday here at Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Mike Babcock, Elijah Herbel. We are at the Hail Varsity Club just in La Vista, and we invite you down here. The Hail Varsity Yearbook release party gets going. We are the appetizer 4 to 6. Some ex-Huskers going to be by from 6 till 8, food and drink specials that are incredible. And, of course, your chance to get the Hail Varsity Yearbook. Erin Sorensen is in the house. Steve Marek is here. There'll be a Jacob Padilla sighting. And we'll also wave at Brandon Vogel. Numbers to dive in today and talk some Husker ball and all things going on in the world of sports. 466-3776, 466-3776, 825-5865. Can find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at MD Babs on Twitter, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, and can email Chris at Hail Varsity. Oh, there's Greg Smith. Wow. Flex. There he is. He's waving at me. He's like, Greg Smith's like, don't bother me. Hey, you know what I mean? I'm here for the show, baby. Greg Smith is here. Mike, good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be here. I'm here to say whatever you say I'm going to agree with, and that's my purpose.
Elijah, you doubt that. You highly doubt that.
Well, see, I'm on the other side here. I'm here whatever you say. I'm here to be the voice of reason and throw it the other way. So you got both sides here, Chris. It couldn't be better for you.
That is good. Can find us, of course, always log on Hail Varsity's Twitter handle at ESPN Lincoln's Twitter handle. We're streaming live on ESPN Lincoln's Twitter and also ESPN Lincoln's Facebook. So the StreamYard is open. Not good news on the recruiting front for Nebraska. We'll talk about that. We'll hit some of the NBA draft tonight. Where does Bryce McGowan's go? And it's kind of all over the board, but that board is more likely leaning first round than second round. And some more college football talking season points. We already hit this topic earlier about scary venues earlier in the week. I think it was Tuesday's show, but our dear friend Big Game Boomer put out his ranking of most intimidating places in college football to play. The big question is this. Elijah Herbel, are you going to overnight train it to see the Abs win the Stanley Cup? 2, are you going to, for free, offer advice to my son who will be umpiring this weekend?
No and yes. In terms of the Stanley Cup, it's a full day for me tomorrow because I'll be in here in the morning for the morning hookup, and then I got a midday baseball game to umpire, and then Hail Varsity, and we'll have a nightcap of some Salt Dogs baseball. So if I can find 4 people to cover 4 different roles for me, we'll think about it. But with only, 16 hours to do so, that's not looking likely. On the other hand, umpiring advice I can do, especially for a new umpire like your son. Number 1, don't be that umpire wearing shorts on the field. I've seen that as a trend in youth.
He doesn't own pants.
For some reason, I keep on seeing these videos of like youth teams, and it's an umpire wearing shorts on the baseball field, and it just every single time.
What are you doing, son? What are you doing, son? We did charge Elijah $14.99 for the yearbook. You break it, you buy it. You've already thumbed through it. The cover is Garrett Nelson, an incredible feature story by Erin Sorensen on Garrett. We will talk to her at 4:40. Mike, Elijah, so much good in this college football Bible that is the Hail Varsity Yearbook. The cover with Garrett Nelson, the briefcase is here, which is sweet. It's not quite the nuclear football, but the black shirt briefcase is here. Great stories by Steve Marek and Jacob Padilla and Greg Smith, as well as Brandon Vogel and Mike Babcock. I flipped through the feature you did on Barrett Root and the Grateful Dead. There's something for everyone. We'll dive into a lot of it, but I want to go here to start off on the recruiting front. Dylan Edwards, 4-star running back from Kansas, the Wichita product that Nebraska was vying for was in the thick of it. He made his announcement today. Offers from Oklahoma, offers from Kansas State, offer from Nebraska. That was the final three. And you have Dylan Edwards staying home. He's going to play football at Kansas State, spurning Nebraska and spurning Oklahoma. That doesn't happen too often. Maybe back in the day in the JUCO ranks where K-State would get a win, Babbers, but that's a big pickup and a lot of history, a lot of rich history in Wichita when it comes to running backs. I think of Paul Miles is a Wichita guy.
Jeff Smith
is who I meant.
Paul Miles was a Michigan New Jersey guy.
New Jersey. Yeah. Jeff Smith, though, was big.
Yes,
and then, of course, D'Angelo Evans for a time in Lincoln. And then Barry Sanders that Nebraska had their clutches on and then scared away saying, son, you'd be a great defensive back.
Barry Sanders was as good as it gets.
No, wasn't he?
He was an outstanding player.
Well, think of how good he would have been playing defensive back. Honestly, with how good a running back he was, would have been an outstanding defensive back.
Oklahoma State was the only school that wanted him as a running back.
Yeah,
everyone else offered him as a DB.
It was a weird situation for a guy as talented as that as a running back. Mm-hmm. And you think about his career in college and in the NFL.
As good as it gets.
It's hard to believe, but that was the way things were then.
Well, we'll dive in here. Let's talk about some of the new guys. Let's talk O'Shawn Mathis and Stephon Wynn on the defensive front. That's a big part of the yearbook that is previewing Nebraska. And what do we talk about when we talk about themes for 2022? A lot of it is dealing with the pressure cooker that is Nebraska, right? You've got a season to really make a statement. If you're Scott Frost in Nebraska, you have a contract that's been reconfigured, and you have gone heavy into the portal, and you've had some nice wins. You've brought in some experienced guys, and you've brought in guys that have won at a high level at some other programs. They've not necessarily been the focal point. Casey Thompson's been a guy that has produced well on offense for Texas. You've got a 5-star and a Trey Palmer that's contributed, and when he's contributed, it's been kind of wow factor-ish when he was at LSU and in the return game. And then you flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. You've got great numbers getting after the quarterback from O'Shawn Mathis and a great PR win. That needs to translate to the Big Ten when it comes to getting after the quarterback. And then Stephon Wynn, we've detailed a number of first through third rounders Alabama has sent to the NFL along that front line. Babbers, what's your take? Elijah, jump in as well as far as what they're bringing, but also that leadership mesh point. That's been a key question mark here that'll tell the story of 2022. All right, did you get some players? Yes. Did you maybe upgrade in some talent? Yes. But what's the locker room dynamic going to be like, Babbers? And from a chemistry standpoint, it sounds like O'Shawn and Stephon Wynn, they've kind of eased into what their voice is like in that locker room.
Yeah, well, that's the key. You know, how they mesh, how they fit into what Nebraska has here already. They've got the resume. There's no question about that. The question remains, how do they fit in? And here's the guy on the cover that's going to be one of the factors in deciding that, I think, because his leadership role has that responsibility as well, as to get these guys involved as quickly as he can. That's the thing. I mean, you're asking them to be involved and to mesh quickly. You know, you can go through spring or you can go through fall camp, but it takes more than that. You know, you're going in with guys that have been here for 2, 3, 4 years, and that's the question: is how do they mesh? How do they fit into this thing? You know, you mentioned Trey Palmer, and I think he's going to be fit in as a receiver as well. But if the only thing he does is make the special teams better, that's a win for Nebraska.
It's a big win.
You know, and those kinds of things, those kinds of questions need to be answered. But yeah, it's how they fit in, how they can adjust after, in some cases, playing 3, 4 years somewhere else, and being in a different kind of a system, and then coming in here, not just talking about teammates, but you're talking about coaches. You're talking about just the general, what it's like to play in Memorial Stadium kind of mentality too, and you don't know that until the first game that you get in there.
That's Mike Babcock, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We're here at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista, just off the interstate. We invite you out here for the Hail Varsity Yearbook release party, an incredible issue for your 2022 college football season. Great food and drink specials. We'll have an autograph signing with some really incredible special ex-Huskers that will start at 6. Deontay Williams going to be with us here around 5:30 as he's off to the Seahawks. Get his take on that Husker secondary. Elijah, when we get back to the chemistry part of things and the topic, you've got some older guys, some that haven't played a lot, some that are trying to regain starting roles or contributor roles on the offensive line. You also have some guys like we've touched on in Garrett Nelson and the linebacking core. That's a different dynamic, isn't it, with what guys are bringing, what other culture guys are bringing. What was the culture like at a TCU? What was the culture like at Process U at Alabama? I mean, there's some things current guys can take from the new guys, isn't there?
Well, yeah, and I'm going to use the volleyball team to illustrate my point here, because we heard this offseason that Nicklin Hames is going to be moving to a new role in the team, and it's really okay if she is not making impact on the court because of her leadership off the court this season. And that's a luxury that the Husker football team doesn't have. Not only do these new guys stepping in have to come in and rub off a winning mentality, a winning culture on the team, they also have to make big plays on the field. I think that's what the Husker football team lacked last season, was guys that could step up and make big-time plays and big-time moments. I mean, quarterback is the position that comes to mind instantly, where you'd see Adrian have a great 3 quarters, and then when winning time came in the 4th quarter, whether it was him trying to do too much or him feeling the pressure, he couldn't make those big-time plays and big-time moments. And we've heard a lot about how great of a leader Adrian was, but he couldn't get it done in crunch time. That's just a simple fact of the matter. So what these new guys come in are going to have to do is not only make those big-time plays and big-time moments, they're also going to have to rub off on their teammates and use their leadership to elevate their teammates in those moments as well, because that's what really this Nebraska team has lacked. They've had good players. They need great players to come in and show how to win, both on the field and off the field.
Elijah Herbel right there back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. College World Series going on, and you have Ole Miss up 1-0. Elijah is fist pumping. You can watch him do so on the ESPN Lincoln Twitter feed and StreamYard on ESPN Facebook, ESPN Lincoln Facebook. I myself, as much as you like the sip, as much as you're tight with Lane Kiffin and his lab, I'm still pulling for Dave Van Horn in Arkansas to meet with Boomer Sooner. If you get an Arkansas-Oklahoma matchup, maybe we can pry old Switzer up from Norman to see his alma mater versus the team he coached for so many years in that College World Series.
Think that might happen?
Well, we can ask him. Tell him you had a effort for him. He'll come up. It's keeping the dog theme going. Let's talk NBA draft here before we catch up with Brandon Vogel. So this is something that's unique. And, Mike, you've covered Nebraska basketball for a while. And as a kid, I saw Nebraska players get drafted through my junior high and even high school years, more so junior high. I remember when Rich King got picked by Seattle, 15th overall. I remember that was the first round, right? Now, they still had an expanded draft then. Right. I remember Hoppin playing with the 76ers in the NBA. I remember Pike going and then being traded to the Clippers. Then I also remember Tyronn Lue ended up in L.A. He was a draft pick that was traded, and Lue had a great career. Nebraska's had a good run of NBA draft picks. Roby's been very impressive. He's been phenomenal from a highlight film standpoint down in Oklahoma City. You have Banton, and with Delano, I wasn't sure how he'd do, but man, he's really thrived. Not only as his athleticism and size is a difference maker, but Banton's really found a home and a role in Toronto. And now you can have Bryce McGowan's go tonight. And Elijah and Babbers, you have all sorts of projections, right? You have anywhere from Houston to, does he end up in Golden State? Mike Babcock would be thrilled if he's finding his way to Golden State. Detroit, maybe it's in Orlando. But I tell you what, he worked out for 2/3 of the NBA. They really love his upside. He is a potential pick. Everyone's a potential pick, but he's a guy that really thrived as a young kid in the Big Ten, the second half of the season. His body type, his athleticism, his ability to knife to the rim is uncanny for as young as he is. So that's your argument for first round. And maybe he turns out to be a guy like Wiggins. And what I mean by that is he hits his potential, he hits his ceiling, he hits his development potential early with you before that second contract or second team or a third team. Give me some help here. The kid for Chicago, the guy that used to be a dunker, Levine.
Exactly.
Levine is a guy that has really wowed with his game from being a dunk contest winner to an all-around scorer. You've seen him become a really great player in the league and not just a guy that can rock the rim. I look at Bryce as a guy like, you know what, someone's going to pull the trigger on him more likely in the first round. You just can't pass up some of those tools. And Nebraska will have another guy drafted tonight. It's just a matter of if it's late in that first round or not.
I've seen projections anywhere from 21 all the way through like 35, 36. It's probably going to be somewhere in that range. But the big knock isn't offensively. It's Bryce's defensive prowess. Flat-footed, tends to get wiped out by his screens and struggled against guys that were his size in the Big Ten. So that's what the knock is, but obviously just worlds of potential offensively.
We will say hi to Brandon Vogel. It's the Hail Varsity Yearbook release party, roadshow Thursday here at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista. Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Calling all Storm Chasers fans. A team you never get to see is making their way to Werner Park June 7th through the 12th, and that's the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. It's the first meeting between the two franchises, and there's plenty going on that week. June 9th is the Chasers Community Celebration for Pride Night, presented by PayPal. June 10th is What If Night, where the Storm Chasers will change their name to the Hogs. A little backstory, that was a previous Omaha team and was a potential name change when the franchise was looking to rebrand. It's a battle of pigs versus hogs. You can't have a name change without new jerseys too. Specialty jerseys will be worn that night, and of course, they'll be autographed and auctioned off. Snag your favorite player June 10th and then run it back on the 11th. It's Salute to Corn Night, presented by the Nebraska Corn Board. It's a celebration of all things corn. Corn on the jerseys, corn in the stands. Trust me, this game will be amazing. See you there.
And we're back
Fellas, you think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes, that's awesome.
Back with you. We're here at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista, just off the interstate. Chris Schmidt, Mike Babcock, Elijah Herbel, as it is the yearbook release party. We are the appetizer. And by the way, log on hailvarsityclub.com and find something you love on the menu. It's incredible. Brandon Vogel is in the football office. We say hi to Brandon Vogel, managing editor, hailvarsity.com and magazine, at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogues, do you have a red tie similar to the one Garrett Nelson wore on the yearbook? We had the Hail Varsity Yearbook briefcase here too. It's pretty sweet. Thanks for jumping in today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad the briefcase made an appearance. That was one of the biggest moving pieces in terms of getting that cover shot. I may not have a tie that red. No, actually I do. It's red and white stripes, but it might be the only red tie I have. I find that I tend towards blue for whatever reason.
You know, I have a few red ties, and that is bold and wonderful to have the red and did you say orange combo?
No, but I'm a big fan of orange. We're getting into a little bit of Virginia Tech territory. I'm all for it.
Well, yeah, that's all right. What does Arch Manning have a burnt orange tie now? Was that part of the deal?
He might have that plus some. You talk about big shocks today, at least for me. Arch Manning, obviously from a family that knows a little bit about football. probably had the opportunity to go wherever he wants, and that's a pretty big feather in Steve Sarkisian's cap at a kind of a pivotal point for Texas. I may not understand it on my own. I mean, you look at this and you're like, well, if you go to Alabama, you probably win 2 national titles in 3 years and maybe the Heisman, because the best player in Alabama tends to win the Heisman in a handful of these years. But it's a bold choice and not one that I saw coming.
But with now 2 5-star quarterbacks on Texas roster, a move to the SEC forthcoming, a new head coach, do you think it's time that we can put Texas in the conversation of college football playoff contenders, at least over the next 5 years?
No. That's my that's my direct.
I refuse.
Next question.
Sorry, Elijah, but I need to see more out of Texas, and probably specifically Steve Sarkisian. You know, we have a lot of chats internally amongst our Hail Varsity staff, and I'll own up to the fact that at some point, not more than probably 2 weeks ago, I was like, "Do you think Steve Sarkisian coaches Texas in an SEC game?" And I don't mean that because I think like Texas is doomed or anything like that, but like I do think there's a lot of pressure there with the fact that they're moving to the SEC to show some real progress before they actually make that jump, whenever that may be. Getting an Arch Manning might buy a little bit more time, but now, like you said, they've got Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning coming in. Quinn has already transferred once from Ohio State to Texas. What do you do with that? It puts kind of a clock on him as well. So it's gonna get interesting. Quarterback recruiting, quarterback retention is never easy. It didn't get any easier today for Texas, though. With a player of those two guys, probably a good problem to have at this point.
Brandon Vogel is with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow here at the Hail Varsity Club, the yearbook release party. We are celebrating. Brent, what an incredible yearbook. You've been a part of these. Mike, you've been a part of these. The whole staff is second to none when it comes to college football info and insight, and then the storytelling. And, you know, I want to get your take real quick on the yearbook. We'll show the cover again. Garrett Nelson, dressed to the nines with that black shirt briefcase. And you have obviously have a column or two in each of the yearbooks on top of just the team previews. As you went through and did your team previews, what team kind of wowed you or made you step back and go, okay, this is going to be interesting? You've got Clay Helton, who's won, going from SC to Georgia Southern, and then you also have the vaunted blackout game on a Friday with Greg Schiano and Rutgers lying in wait. Those are two opponents that on paper they look like they should be wins, but again, that paper's been through the shredder a lot the last 8 years.
Yeah, those are two good ones, and I'll get to them individually, I guess, eventually. In terms of teams in the Big Ten that I went through and said, wow, this probably isn't a surprise, but it's Ohio State, which you can do that to a degree every year, but they scored 46 points a game last year, and they bring back one of the probably 2 best quarterbacks in the country, bring back probably the best receiver in the country, 2 of the best, say, 15 running backs in the country. I mean, that offense is loaded for bear. And then they went and plucked the defensive coordinator who helped basically lead Oklahoma State to the Big 12 championship game. So I expect them to be better defensively. So I kind of looked at last year to the 2021 season as one that could be a slight step back for Ohio State, and that resulted in, 10-2, 11-2 after a bowl game. So rough times for the Buckeyes last year. I don't expect it to be that rough for them. Maryland's a team that I think if they get anything defensively could be kind of interesting. But the two that you mentioned, Georgia Southern is one that I think typically you could kind of say, well, they're going from, they're a triple option program moving, they ran some spread out recently, moving to Clay Helton, who's covering from USC, who's a little bit more of classic spread. Defensively, they're bringing in a coordinator from Washington, basically as far as you can get in the U.S., almost as far as you can get. Could be tough, but they return a lot of experience. So I'll be really interested in Georgia Southern, and that's a program that pretty strong culture-wise from their FCS success and moved into, prior to their recent downturn, pretty good in the Sun Belt. So those are, I'll be interested in Georgia Southern. That's one you can chalk up. Rutgers, sort of similar. Like, I feel like Rutgers is slowly making gains. Really kind of lost a lot on the offensive line. And I think that's the big question for Rutgers going into 2022. Excuse me. Are they going to have enough up front to be able to make some gains offensively? Because I think defensively under Schiano, they're always going to be pretty solid.
Brandon Vogel is with us. The Hail Varsity Yearbook release party going on here at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista. If you're watching us, Vogues is in his football office. Mike Babcock and me, Chris Schmidt, we are here at the Hail Varsity Club. Elijah Herbel is back in the ESPN Lincoln studios. And what a celebration with the yearbook release party. So, Vogues, I sent you this tweet by good old boy, Big Game Boomer. And Elijah was scoffing at the selection of the scariest place to play. There was a topic earlier on the show. But, man, how do you feel about old Iowa being number one on the list with this tweet here, toughest places to go play? Nebraska, to its credit, came in 13th right behind Clemson. And you have some teams that maybe haven't lived up to the hype, so to speak, but I'll say this, Nebraska still, despite their record, is not a top pick to go play a game on Saturday, let alone a night game.
Yeah, a little surprised Iowa at number one. Maybe not as surprised as I was to see Nebraska still rank at 15th. And I don't mean that to say that Nebraska doesn't have a great home atmosphere. It obviously does, but you go through the decade that Nebraska has gone through, and it becomes a little bit tougher. I haven't been to all or even the majority of college football stadiums. I've been fortunate to have been to, I think, every stadium in the Big Ten and a handful of others beyond that at this point. Honestly, and this will be weird, I don't think this team even made the top 25. Like, you want to talk about scariest, literally defended, or literally defined. The scariest atmosphere I might have been in, and again, I don't mean this as a detriment, like, might have been Miami, and it might not. That's a school you probably don't think of a lot because they've moved stadiums a handful of times. Mike has been to probably Miami games at more stadiums that I've been to. Well, he certainly has. I've only been to one. But even in that scenario, I was like, when I was there for that Nebraska at Miami game in Mike Relly's, I think, second year, I was like, oh, this atmosphere is just, it's different. And ended up being a good game. Nebraska rallied pretty hard in that game and went to overtime and came out a little bit short. But that was one that stood out to me. I think Wisconsin, which was a couple spots ahead of Nebraska, remains one that my first time there, my impression was that's a tough atmosphere. And every time I've been back since, it stays up there. So, anybody puts out a list, I guess the reason for it to exist is for others to disagree with it. So here I am doing that. But those would be up there in my list, Miami and Wisconsin.
Iowa at number one, though, that makes no sense to me. I mean, it's scary if it's a night game against a top 10 opponent, but that happens, once every 2 years?
They win. They win or they cover.
That's true.
They win or they cover. I think I've not been to Columbus, but I think that place is absolute bonkers. And Nebraska's been there at night more times than they like. Death Valley down at LSU, Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I remember after Tom Osborne, after the Huskers played there in the mid-'70s, I think it was a 6-6 time maybe, said he would never go back there and play at that place. That's a crazy place. And Texas A&M is scary in the press box because when they start shaking, the press box you're afraid the press box is going to come down.
Start swaying.
And Penn State is an unpleasant place to be.
Penn State's
anywhere inside the stadium or in College Park.
College Park, for
yeah.
sure. Vogue's incredible work with the yearbook, my friend. Thanks for jumping on, making time. Thanks for all you do, bud.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Good stuff. That is Brandon Vogel, managing editor. We're here at the Hail Varsity Club yearbook release party. You are invited out. Autograph session with some former Huskers, 6 to 8. Get your food and drink on. A quick time out. We'll spend time with Erin Sorensen. She's up next. Great feature on Garrett Nelson, Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Calling all soccer fans. Union Omaha is back home after an unbelievable showing in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup round of 16. An upset over Minnesota United? That's our team. So join them when they come home May 28th for Educational Outreach Night, presented by Bellevue University. The Owls will face Northern Colorado Hailstorm FC, and after a couple of road matches, will come back on June 18th to face Greenville Triumph SC. It's also Pride Night. We'll see you there.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Roadshow keeps rolling here at the Hail Varsity Club. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Big thanks to Mike Babcock, Brandon Vogel. Steve Marek is here. Greg Smith is here. Jacob Padilla is hanging out as well. There's You want Steve? We have Erin Sorensen is here. You brought the magic briefcase. Is this kind of like the Pulp Fiction briefcase? Does it glow on the inside?
I did. Actually, Garrett knew that when we handed him. He goes, I feel like I should like Pulp Fiction. So I did. I brought it. It will eventually live here at the Hail Varsity Club so people can see it. They can see it right now. If they're here, they can come witness it in person.
We are here, the yearbook release party. You are invited out. Ex-Huskers, some standouts you love. Tommy Armstrong, Deontay Williams, De'Mornay Pierson-El here for an autograph session. Gets going at 6. Get an appetizer, get a burger, get a salad. What's this cherry vodka thing they've got concocted?
Yes, it's the Scarlet and Cream, and I will go look up what it is specifically for you because I know we were talking about it. And
we were thinking of sampling for...
Oh, you're braver than me. I'm not sure I'm ready. I guess it's almost 5 o'clock. I was thinking it's too early in the day. That's where my brain's at.
We got to prep for Dublin.
It's, yes, whipped vodka, strawberries, raw sugar, pomegranate syrup, homemade Amaretto whipped cream.
There we go.
So Pat was right. It does have Amaretto whipped cream. You're right. You were right.
That's pretty good. Elijah, are you? Your ears have perked up, my friend.
Well, it sounds good, but it also sounds like it'll give me heartburn in roughly 1 hour after I drink it. So
yeah, have another to get rid of the heartburn. Erin Sorensen with us. Erin, let's talk about a lot of things. First and foremost, the yearbook, and then I want to get into Title IX, the documentary you're a part of on Nebraska Public Media tonight at 8 o'clock, so folks need to check that out as well. But with Garrett, your feature story, the connection you have all the way back through the recruiting period, even out in Scotts Bluff.
Yeah, Garrett was somebody that I just got to know. I was covering recruiting much. We now have Greg,
sure.
But I was covering recruiting a lot more than I am now, and that class was a really interesting class for me because I got to know them really well, and one of those individuals was Garrett Nelson. And just to be clear, his whole family is just the nicest humans, incredible people. And so it wasn't just getting to know Garrett, it was getting to know Holly, it was getting to know Chris, it was getting to know the whole Nelson family. And I've always thought I want to do a story on Garrett, but the timing just needs to be right. And it feels like it had to be now or never.
Sure.
Because while he does technically have 2 years of eligibility left at Nebraska, if he has the season I think a lot of us are expecting him to, the NFL is going to come calling much sooner. So it was like, we got to get this story done now. And thankfully, he was great about letting me tell the story.
Well, an incredible read. Erin Sorensen, her feature on Garrett Nelson, this year's cover of the Hail Varsity Yearbook. We're here at the Hail Varsity Yearbook release party, Hail Varsity Club in La Vista. And tell you what, his story's fantastic because he's always had the drive, he's always had the motor, and he's continually progressed. And that's a straight-up Husker story as you keep getting better and better and better. And then by the end of the road, you're one of the team leaders. Yeah,
I think the thing that will surprise people, though, when they read the story is how he has always had the drive. He's always had, the want, but he's had to work really, really, really hard. And it's a lot because he's had his own personal battles with his mental health and just like, is he good enough? Is this what he wants? Is this what he can do for the rest of his life? Is it wrestling? Is it football? Like, he battled so much. So when you see the cover and you see that headline, it doesn't happen all at once. That actually comes from a story of the Velveteen Rabbit. Okay. And that is a story that he was told by Eric Shenander. And that story was a foundational moment for him in his career at Nebraska because he felt like the point of be genuine, be who you are, be yourself, let your actions do the talking, stood out to him and helped motivate him through a pretty tough freshman season. And he still sticks with that story to this day where he's like, that was something that meant a lot. Mm-hmm. So you hear stories about him from his perspective, but also the perspectives of the people that know him best. And it's neat to hear how those two sort of complement one another, but how he sees things differently than how they see things.
Coach Shenander's been a rock for so many guys, and that is absolutely really cool to hear how he's obviously their leader as the coordinator, but how he's able to connect one-on-one with kids.
Yeah, I think he just... in the case of the story of sharing the Velveteen Rabbit, he had read that story with his daughters, and then it was just kind of this natural thing where he's like, hey, there's a lot of really good points to be made in this. I'm going to share it with my defense. And he clearly connects with his players on a really, on a level beyond football. Mm-hmm. He wants them to be great off the field. He wants them to be great members of their, families, their friend groups, their communities, and he focuses on that. And so, yes, the football part is important. Winning games is important. But Shenander's clear that he wants to establish them for their futures, whether it includes football or not.
The projections for Garrett and a lot of preseason mags and its talking season as we're 65 days from kickoff, right? Garrett, what's your take and feel? Is he embracing the expectations of an all-conference performer? Is he looking at that? What's the feel?
Not really. In fact, he was the one who told me, he's like, I'm not landing on too many preseason lists because he's like, I haven't done enough to land on those lists. I shouldn't be on them. I really shouldn't be. I even said to him, I was like, I bet you land on. He's like, oh, no. Look at Nick Henrich. He's going to end up on a lot of those preseason lists. So for him, he's not focused on whether he's on a list today or not, anything preseason. For him, there's a quote in there where he's like, everything I can see in my mind, essentially I'm paraphrasing, but everything I see, I can be on Saturday. And he feels like it shouldn't have taken him this long is kind of how he views it. But he feels like everything he has dreamt about himself is possible, and he just has to put that into action. And so, for him, he is on his own watch list. If there's a Garrett Nelson watch list, he's number one, and he has his name bolded, highlighted, and he is ready to prove what he knows he's capable of.
That's a really good insight from Erin Sorensen, Garrett Nelson on the cover of this year's Hail Varsity Yearbook. Erin, I've got about a minute this segment, and then I want to carry you over if you've got a couple of minutes to talk Title IX and the feature program tonight on Nebraska Public Media. I look at Garrett and I look at his voice and what he's done. He's a big earn it guy, and that's the narrative coming from him. But I have to anticipate he's pretty excited for a breakthrough year for the team.
Oh yeah, he was like one of, I will say, like from the get-go of putting this story together and the photo shoot and everything, he was really adamant that he did not want this to be Garrett is bigger than Nebraska. He is a part of Nebraska. Every success that he has is only great if it also is success for Nebraska. And he is just, you can feel it with him. He wants so badly for Nebraska to win. And honestly, if you could have a team of Garrett Nelsons with the passion that he has, you could imagine the ceiling is you could be shattering that ceiling in like 10 seconds. But it's not a team of just Garretts. There's all kinds of personalities and all different talent levels and everything else. So how does this all come together? We don't know.
That's
but
the question.
He certainly has the passion and the drive and wants to see it through.
Erin Sorensen, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Hail Varsity will wind hour one next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, we're at the Hail Varsity Club, the yearbook release party 2022. Chris Schmidt, Erin Sorensen, Elijah Herbel is back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. Jacob Padilla here, Steve Marek, and, of course, Greg Smith. Mike Babcock is checking things out, watching a little CWS. Erin Sorensen, incredible feature on Garrett Nelson. He is on the cover of the yearbook. Erin, you are busy. You are all over. And Title IX, 50 years in the making. It airs tonight on Nebraska Public Media. Congrats on your work with that, and excited to see that on Nebraska Public Media. What a show and what a moment.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was about this time last year that the Nebraska Public Media team came to me. Brock Lohr, who was the producer of this, he was curious if I would be interested in helping lead the charge with this, and I really could not have anticipated the journey that they were going to take me on. We went to Oregon, got to speak with Sedona Prince. I don't get starstruck often, but I got starstruck by Sedona Prince. We went to Minnesota for the women's Final Four. We went to I got to host this incredible panel in Lincoln at the Coliseum. Just the amount of stories. I was going to say, I got to go to the state wrestling tournament to see the first girl state champion wrestlers. It was quite the journey, and it was very inspiring. I think reminded me why I got into this job and why I work and fight so hard in it, because Title IX has done a lot for women, and that's great, but it certainly is. We've got a lot of work still to do, and that's what this panel talked about, too. So I'm excited for people to see it and hear from them.
Tell us a little bit about the folks on the panel as you led the discussion and, of course, bringing a voice to Title IX. And 50 years in the making on NPR tonight. Excuse me, Nebraska Public Media, and that's at 8 Central. Be sure to watch that. But your panel, who's who?
Yeah, it was Carol Frost, Brenda Van Langen, Peaches James Keaton, and Jordan Larson. Even Martise Ivy came up and joined us for the Q&A section, which will also be online at nebraskapublicmedia.org/Title IX. Just incredible women who have seen Title IX through all different stages of it. Jordan Larson was the one who said, I don't feel like I've really experienced a lot of the things that they were talking about, and it was Brenda and Carol who were like, no, that's good. That this is what we fought for, and what we are still fighting for is every time we hear the next generation say it's easier for me, they've done what they were hoping to, and so the hope is the next generation that comes after and then comes after that, it gets easier, and we build a more equitable space for women and for girls to compete and beyond. Title IX is not just about sports. In fact, it is the 37 words as they started really didn't have anything directly to do with sports, but it directly impacted sports. So I think it's just important that we remember, Title IX did a lot of good, but there's a lot to be done to make that a better piece of legislation for all.
That is Erin Sorensen. Watch Title IX, 50 years in the making, Nebraska Public Media tonight. We are here with Hail Varsity Radio at the Hail Varsity Club, the yearbook release party. Party gets kicking at 6 with an autograph session. Come see us. Hour 2's on the way. More special guests. Gary Barnett will kick us off in Hour 2 with Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Some lake time is the Hall of Fame coach, Gary Barnett, with us. Coach, have you got the water skis ready?
Well, we've been out on the boats tubing for about 3 days. In fact, we're just burnt out from it. And now I'm not tubing. I'm pulling the grandkids. So we've tubed all over this daggone river for 3 days. We had the wave runners out yesterday. So today we've got a big trip planned down through all these caverns and caves, and then a big day at the pool and a barbecue. I got ribs. Ooh. 4 racks of ribs, getting ready for about 22 people. So my day's full, man.
You are loaded up. When's the last time you tubed?
It'll probably be the next time.
So you are the boat driver. You're leaving it at that, and you're the rib smoker. Yep. You going to get any golf in down there? I hear Table Rock's incredible.
I came down here and played with 3 buddies. One, Tony Gillick there from Lincoln, the Bud guy. And so we all came down last year and played in September and played all 5 courses and had a ball. And they are really good golf courses. The Payne Stewart course is great. Mm-hmm. Par 3s are really good. So we had a ball, and we stayed for a week. So
that's good. That's good. We'll dive into some football now, and man, that sounds relaxing to be doing the lake life. I like it. So, Coach, I'm interested in your thought on Nebraska and what should their rushing goals be when you went into a season. And you know how the Big Ten climate is, not only just November, but just the physical nature. What's a good goal for a team that is bringing in a new offensive mind that has been prone to pass, and a guy like Coach Whipple? What's the direction? What's the balance from a rushing standpoint, and what should that yield be?
Well, everybody's a little bit different on that, and the game's changed a little bit since I talked in those terms. But I know when I came in and took over for Coach Neuheisel, they were only averaging like 120 or 125 a game, and I just felt like if you weren't hitting 150, even when you're throwing the football, that in that league it was going to be tough to win, and I think that's probably pretty true in the Big Ten. I think I don't care how much you're throwing around, you need to run the ball probably for 150. The thing is, it's not so much important how many yards you get, is that you be able to run it when you want to run it and not when you have to run it. So, you gotta be able to control that. And like we talked last time, you've got 4-minute drive left in the game and you don't want to turn that ball back over. Well, that probably means you're going to have to be able to run it when you want to run it. And so I always thought more in those terms rather than put a number on it. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the game, you look at the stats, say, oh, man, we rushed for 250 or 300 or 185. I didn't care so much about that. I just knew there had to be balance. And more important than anything, there's times in a game when you have to run the football. And you got to have a series of plays that everybody knows and knows how to run. And then, you got to get to the play call on it. But that's pretty much how we thought about it.
Why is it, or why do you think it is difficult for teams to run it when they have to run it in the Big Ten? Is it just because of the defenses? Is it the way defenses are built? It's 3rd and short. We know what they're going to do. We're going to be able to stop it, because Nebraska's had offenses in the past. It didn't matter if it was 3rd and 1. It was going to be 1st and 10. And you had offenses at Colorado and Northwestern where you were so physical and had such good backs. Game over. You were going to get the first down.
Yeah, 3rd and 1's not the tough call. The tough calls are 3rd and 3, maybe 3rd and 2, 3rd and 2, 3, 4. And then I think 3rd and 5 is the most important call in football. But, 3rd and 5 is pretty much thought of as a passing down. And Chris, I always wanted 4 or 5 3rd and 5 calls that, that they hadn't seen before or we hadn't run much of. But, I had 3 or 4 separate 3rd and 5 calls because I knew how important that down was. And, 3rd and 1s, we were going to hit you with our best stuff. I don't care. It's going to be, hey, diddle, diddle, we're coming up the middle, whatever it is. But, 3rd and 2, you got to be a little more, have a little more variety. And then 3rd and 3, you got to be somewhat balanced. You got to be able to, have a good 3rd down pass, 3rd and 3 pass, and a good a good series of 3rd and 3 runs. So, we always went into the games that way.
What's your feel with Coach Whipple on quarterback run and quarterback movement? When you look at his style and what you know about him, you've got a pretty big-time athlete in Casey Thompson. Chubba Purdy's also an athletic guy. They're not in the kind of same vein as Adrian was with what he was asked to do carrying the football. But how much of that do you leave in the playbook, Coach? And as far as, rolling the pocket, is that something that Whipple likes to do?
Well, I think he's got 2 quarterbacks that more than anything else can get him out of a bad play. And I think that's where you're relying on his legs more. You're not going to be a quarterback run-oriented offense like you were with Martinez. So, you just need a quarterback who can get you out of trouble and with his feet or extend the play with his feet so that you can get the ball thrown wherever it is. But, I think that's where your quarterback runs come in. Are mostly not by design, but in situations where he can extend the play. I don't think Mark's going to go to an option offense with those quarterbacks, although he's got a couple guys that can run well enough, but I think well enough to get you out of trouble.
Gary Barnett's with us. He is on the lake, giving us a few minutes before the smoking starts with those ribs as we are talking some college football. Interesting by ESPN.com, Coach, the future power rankings, college football's best teams over the next 3 years. ESPN's gone here. Your top 4 or 5, not shocking when you look at what Adam Rittenberg put together because, Bama and Georgia and Clemson and Ohio State are really good. Who do you think's on the rise? Who do you think's ready to kind of break through or ascend into playoff discussion, specifically if the playoff expands? Who are some teams you think are ready to turn the corner?
Well, if you look at that list, none of them are real new. It's pretty much the way it's been year in and year out forever. Cincinnati's jumped in there, they until the last 2 years they haven't been an issue or a factor. So you're sort of looking at teams like that, and whether it's UCF, but UCF they've been prominent in the last 10 years, so they're a team. You certainly have to take and look at USC as being more of what they've been and getting back to a level that would put them in the top 10. I think that Florida State's a team that has everything you need, and in a conference where you can dominate to make that kind of a run. That team looks obvious to me. Mm-hmm. Texas is going to get back. They're just, I don't know how or where, but they've got to get back. Oklahoma State was pretty strong in that poll, if you remember. And with Oklahoma out and Texas out, they've got a chance to dominate there a little bit. The teams, the Pac-12, I don't know who it's going to be. Washington has all the stuff. They're made to be a dominant team, but whether they get back to it or not, it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. So, to me, this pretty much looks like the same guys, with a few exceptions thrown in. I mean, speaking of Okie State and UCF maybe getting back in there. Auburn's certainly strong enough to make another run somewhere. Whether that's the right coaching combination at Auburn or not, it's pretty controversial down there. But to me, maybe Florida State is a team that you have to look at and say, this team can really make a difference in this in the top 20.
I'm going to ask you about Miami with Cristobal. Does Miami finally have the perfect fit? A Miami guy back in Miami, and I look at how physical Cristobal's been wherever he's been.
The only thing I struggle with Miami is the culture of Miami. I don't know whether the culture of Miami is built to handle a college football resurgence. Okay. I just don't know. I mean, I look at that and I don't see it like the other places. But I certainly could be wrong. Have been many times, as my wife pointed out. But she does tell me that I'm often wrong, but always certain.
You're always certainly wrong. Wow. Except on 3rd and 5, right? I mean, you nailed that.
Well, that's a tough one, man. I'll tell you.
Okay, another question before we let you go. Gary Barnett with us. He is on the lake smoking some ribs. Not far from the Arkansas border. Hogs live another day up here for the College World Series. At least they got to an elimination game. Lance Leipold, really enjoyed what he did wherever he's been. Can he replicate what Bill Snyder did? Can he make Kansas what Bill did to K-State, or is that doable? And you know a lot about the resurrection part of things, too, with your great work at Northwestern.
The times of resurrecting are so much harder. Right now, the times are so much harder, situations so much harder than when I went into Northwestern or when Bill went into Kansas State. I mean, it's a completely different culture out there now. And I think it's really hard. To think that Kansas can put together enough NIL money and become a portal place for people to go. I don't know. I think Lance is a great coach, and whether he's got Bill Snyder is such a unique individual. I don't know if Lance will do it in his mold, but there's certainly a lot of hope out there for him. He's in a very, very tough job, and it's once you get it done there, or once it looks like you're going to get it done, then everybody who's not getting it done is going to want to hire you. And I don't know whether Kansas has the wherewithal to keep him if it should come about.
No, I think that's exactly right. He has been able to do whatever he needs to do at all stops and get hired away. Did you guys ever feel, I don't want to say hopeless, but it was insurmountable, either when you started out at Colorado or Northwestern? It was too deep a hill or too steep to climb?
I don't know that we thought about it, frankly. Okay. I think we just went to work, and I don't think you can let those thoughts in. There were times privately when I'm going, what am I doing? But no, never never on a day-to-day basis. You just start solving problems, and you got to look for a lot of times long-term solutions to some of your problems. You got to work on that. I mean, it's a 28-hour-a-day job trying to revitalize a program like that.
Gary Barnett with us. Coach, enjoy the lake, enjoy the family. Shoot us a picture of the ribs, all right?
All right, Chris, we'll do it, bud.
Good stuff. The Hall of Fame coach, Gary Barnett, his usual Thursday spot. Chris Schmidt, Mike Babcock here at the Hail Varsity Club as the yearbook release party is off and running. Autograph session gets going at 6. Tommy Armstrong, Deontay Williams, part of the Seahawks, and De'Mornay Pierson-El with the Broncos. So excited for those guys to be by at 6. Come get food and drink. Hale Ale is on tap. The great folks from Kincaidor, and that beer is very tasty. Ole Miss is off to play Oklahoma, which means Elijah Herbel is smiling and happy.
I tried to tell you guys.
Also, that means Lane Kiffin will be on his way back up from the SIP to Omaha with his lab. Elijah, do you have a major decision to make between umping and working? Do you find your way to Denver for the Avs? Do you find your way to Omaha for your beloved Ole Miss Rebels?
Have you seen gas prices recently? I will be umpiring, dude. I can't afford a gas tank to get to Omaha without umpiring. So,
well, as I say, just jump on the train about 1 a.m. down in the Haymarket in the rail yard and find your way overnight. We'll dive in with Mike Babcock, some more Nebraska football thoughts. The yearbook release party is ongoing. Come get your subscription, come get your yearbook, and come sample the Scratch Kitchen delicacies here at Hail Varsity Club. Incredible food, wonderful lineup, and a full bar. We'll check in with some former Huskers coming up here at the Hail Varsity Club, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@hailvarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow Thursday here at the Hail Varsity Club, the yearbook release party. And you're invited out. Get some food, get some drink, get your subscription, and come by, especially if you've got some young ones, for the autograph session that gets happening here at the Hail Varsity Club just off of the interstate and the Giles release area by the embassy. As here in La Vista is where the Hail Varsity Club is tucked. It's an incredible food and drink lineup and TVs for you. As we just wrapped up the College World Series, Ole Miss is sent to play Oklahoma. Chris Schmidt, Mike Babcock, Elijah Herbel with us. We're streaming live on ESPN Lincoln's Twitter handle at ESPN Lincoln. We're on Facebook Live at ESPN Lincoln, and can also link to us at Hail Varsity. Find Elijah on Twitter and the mustache at Herbal Essence. Mike Babcock at MD Babs. Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. On the way, we'll spend time with Seattle Seahawk Deontay Williams. Great safety for Nebraska. We may have time to catch up with De'Mornay Pierson-El. Incredible return man and receiver for Nebraska football. Reminder to get buckled up, and game preparation and repetition predict success and winning. Drivers and vehicle passengers who always use their seatbelts will increase their survival chances if a crash should happen. Remember to always buckle up. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Babbers and Elijah, we just wrapped up with Coach Barnett, And we were talking about the feature story on Lance Leipold at Kansas. Did a great job at Buffalo. Prior to that, won a million games at Whitewater and was instrumental in building a really strong program at UNO as offensive coordinator. In the topic of long-term success, the questions out there, can Leipold do at KU what Bill Snyder did at Kansas State? And I also kind of link Bill Snyder and Gary Barnett together because of how bad the programs they were. They took over, and then they took him to New Year's Day bowl games and had conference titles, unprecedented success. I don't know, to Coach's point, that Lance will be at KU long enough because somebody's going to knock on his door. Lance is still young enough, mid to upper 50s, to maybe have a major Power 5 landing spot. And well, they win 2 games last year at Kansas, but I don't know about you, Elijah or Mike, but I remember the Texas game. remember the shootout that was high scoring and high energy. And wow, Lance is a guy that is as good as it gets as a coach. When we talk Nebraska here, long-term success, that's what Nebraska fans, that's what the administration, that's what the staff, that's what this state of 1.9 plus million walk-ons want, is long-term solution. And Nebraska has a chance to have a breakthrough season this year, Mike, and get to postseason. Elijah, as long as you've been alive, your top bar of success has been the Sioux years or a 10-win season. Mike's seen all 5 national championships. I've seen 3 of them. But I guess long-term solution is a good talking point right here. And it's going to take a lot to get Nebraska back that direction, but it's been a work in progress under Scott.
Yeah, my question is, from what you've seen, Smitty, has the college football world changed significantly enough that it's much more difficult for Nebraska now to get back in that conversation on a consistent basis? And I'm not saying national championship conversation year after year after year. We're not going to see that, but can Nebraska be relevant to some degree nationally, every couple of years, or, when you build something? Or has college football changed to the extent that Nebraska is one of those programs that is going to fade?
That used to be. I think you're on the brink right now. Your brand will never fade as long as there are folks who love college football. Are you a current hit, or are you classic rock? Right. And I look at Nebraska as the window is not closed, but it's not halfway open anymore. So new hires or current hires have to hit because you've recycled so much. But I do believe that if you've been good to great before, you can do that again. And Nebraska's always been on the cutting edge in something, be it offense, be it strength and nutrition, be it the academic side of things. Nebraska's forefront, organized, and well-positioned with the NIL era. So I think that is your way, and it's got to pay off, as we touched on in hour one, chemistry-wise, with the talent you brought in. But Nebraska is going to be in the competition for NIL opportunity and be a coveted landing spot for players that want a change of scenery, that have some credentials, or at least were good enough to land at a TCU, at a Texas, or an LSU. So I absolutely think Nebraska hasn't vanished from the college football world yet because of their brand, because of their ability in NIL. And they've just got to flip it around on the field. Elijah, your thought here, is college football too different? Really, there's one program to me, Bud, that is still old school enough, kind of in that Nebraska mold, and the process is preached at Alabama. The Husker blueprint is what Saban took from Nebraska. He's great, don't get me wrong, but my point is it's not like he didn't make phone calls to T.O. and Coach McBride on how to build. Well, you're seeing that 2.0 version in action right now. So Bama's special, whether they have NIL or not. They're going to get you to the first or through third round, and you're going to win a ton of ball games. But you got about 4 or 5 programs right now that are on a run right now, and Nebraska's not the only former blue blood or current blue blood that's been down. Oklahoma's a current example to me where they were 10 years wondering before they finally hit on Stoops. So I think, again, that was 20 years ago. I think it's a fair question. I'm not ready to write them off yet.
Well, how I look at it is I look at how college football has changed since Bo Pelini was at the helm at Nebraska, because that's the last time we had the results that I think Nebraska fans would be satisfied with. We're talking that those 10-2
on
type
the doorstep
seasons
on the conference title.
Yeah, and I look at how college football has changed, and I see it really only in 2 ways. One is the college football playoff, which, let's be honest, Nebraska, even if there was a college football playoff when Bo Pelini was still around, was never really knocking on that college football playoff door. They were never really all that close to a season where you'd go, man, Nebraska deserved to be in the college football playoff. So I don't think that's impacted Nebraska. And then the other side I look at is the recruiting side with, less guys flying under the radar because of all these camps you see across the country and the social media age. You see less guys fly under the radar, but I don't think that's why Nebraska has lost their success. I think it's because you made one bad hire in Mike Riley, which set your football program back, and then the move to the Big Ten changed how you have to recruit. And Nebraska has never quite found their footing in the Big Ten. And when I look at those two things, I go, well, there's no reason for Nebraska to not be able to find new recruiting hotbeds, which we've seen them do here even in the past year with Mickey Joseph and his influence in Louisiana, Brian Applewhite down in Texas, Bill Bush even in that Missouri region. So I don't think that's a problem. So I don't see a reason that Nebraska can't make it back, especially now when you factor in NIL, which has kind of been an equalizer for Nebraska across the other teams, which have had success over the past couple of years. So I don't think Nebraska has passed that window by any means.
The one thing that I would think is that as the recruiting situation has changed because of what you said. I mean, nobody flies under the radar. The ability to have lots and lots of walk-ons has changed. The numbers have changed. You can't bring in the kinds of walk-ons that you once did. I mean, Nebraska had, 180 guys, and that
you had a full roster, man.
Yeah, and you had walk-ons in there competing for jobs, and you had an opportunity in practice to have 4 stations going at once, and guys learning that way. You don't have that now, and I think it makes it more difficult. Recruiting, the population base has always been a consideration, and Nebraska has to get back to some measure of success, I think, for that brand to mean something when you recruit. Well, maybe NIL is the important thing. Maybe the transfer portal is important on how you handle that, but it's just more difficult to recruit now than it once was for Nebraska, especially because of population base.
Well, and you also, from your story, Mike, here in the Hail Varsity Yearbook, you talked with Luke Reimer and Nick Henrich, where Luke Reimer was making a decision between a scholarship offer at South Dakota State versus a preferred walk-on offer at Nebraska. And back in the 90s, I don't even think that'd be a question for a lot of Nebraska kids. You're going to take that walk-on offer at one of the best places in the country, but now you look at it and you go, do I want to go to a place where I can get an education, I can get most of it paid for, if not all of it paid for, or I can go fund my own way through Nebraska and hope things work out on a team that hasn't even seen a bowl game in, 6 years?
Yeah, and Luke bet on himself. You know, obviously he had the opportunity, the scholarship thing, and he bet on himself. He came to Nebraska, and he's got people saying, why did this guy not get a scholarship offer coming out of high school? I mean, and for a couple of years in high school in Ashland, Kansas, he played 8-man football on top of that. So it was a big adjustment just going to North Star.
Yeah, he had to make the shift to be seen, and he has been incredible, phenomenal linebacker. Him and Henrich anchor in the middle for Coach Chinander. We're here at the Hail Varsity Club, the yearbook release party. Garrett Nelson on the cover. Excited to invite you out here. Autograph session with some former Huskers gets going at 6. We are winding down the show here. We wrap at 6. Numbers to get in at 466-377-76 800-825-5865. You can email Chris at HailVarsity.com or chime into us on Twitter at ESPN Lincoln or the ESPN Lincoln Facebook page. The difference here, and you mentioned the recruiting base, the population's growing, but still it's a small state, but you have more and more high-level performers being plucked by the SEC, by the Big 12, by other programs. So the word is out on the Nebraska in-state talent. It's going to come down ultimately to the on-the-field advertisement to go with the reputation of a once great program and the connection with some currently incredible recruiters. The third part of this phase is going to be the on-field performance that is the full pitch for Nebraska to be in it from the get-go. Nebraska will find talent, and they need to develop that talent. We'll continue on here. Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Like what you hear, high-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity. We're on the road here at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista, not far from Embassy Suites. So we invite you out here. The Hail Varsity Yearbook release party's going on. Good stuff from Brandon Vogel and Erin Sorensen and Coach Barnett. We may run down Deontay Williams here in the near future. Also, De'Mornay Pierson-El. Let's get back to the NBA draft, and it's important because you're going to hear a Husker name called for the third time in 4 years. Guys, we look at the mock drafts, and I ask you to go to HailVarsity.com. Jacob Bedella, who will be on with us tomorrow to get some draft reaction. You have a lot of scouts, and I talked to a couple of folks that are in the NBA, and I'm not trying to name drop like a scumbag, but that's my connection because I sure as heck don't know the scouting like these folks do. But you had 2/3 of the NBA work out Bryce McGowans. That includes Milwaukee. That's a team to think about as a dark horse. You have Detroit that is very interested. New Orleans also. The lowest maybe we've seen Bryce projected is number 41 overall to New Orleans. But Golden State and Milwaukee, very big players, as well as the Miami Heat. Kevin O'Connor from the Ringer has Bryce going very high to a really nice team with Memphis, and pairing McGowans with Morant could be something pretty special. I've also seen Denver mentioned, so I don't have a physical dart, but there is a dart board once you enter in to the Hail Varsity Club here in La Vista, and we could go a little Ted Lasso if we want to travel the computer with us, put all the NBA teams on the draft board, and we could all just throw the dart and say, there we go, that's where it's going to land. But I think Bryce is a guy, fellas, that you're going to see him. Everyone's drafted on projection and upside, but Bryce is a guy that could absolutely grow into a player that, by year 3 in the league or year 3 and right fit. I've also seen San Antonio as a team that's very interested in Bryce. But by year 3, with some development, with some work on the defensive end, he's a guy that could be, a potential all-star, because you look at it just took Wiggins, right, as an example, for him to finally land number 1 pick overall, and he'd been through it all. before landing that perfect spot and finding his role. Same with Levine in Chicago, Elijah, where he's not just a poster. He's not just a Twitter highlight. He's a big time scorer and a leader for a playoff team. As you look at it, Elijah, then Babbers, I'll get your take. If you're drafting, where do you see the perfect fit? I myself, I'm gonna say San Antonio, because I think teaming up Pop, as long as he's there with Bryce, I think that could be pretty special. So I think going to San Antonio would be a lot of fun. I don't know how much fun it'd be to play for Pop on certain nights, but man, he makes guys really good ball players.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to look at the teams near the bottom of the first round, because that's where I see him sliding in somewhere between that 24 and 30. You can see him going top of the third round. But when you look at 23, let's go 23 to 30. It's the 76ers, the Bucks, the Spurs, the Rockets, the Heat, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, and the Nuggets. And when I look at a team there that actually they've picked guys based on offensive upside, kind of overlooked some defensive weaknesses and just found guys that can shoot the ball, get to the rim. I mean, Golden State actually seems like a spot that would make a lot of sense. They have riches and talents right now, so you have the ability to stash a guy for a little bit, whether that be in the G League or on your bench, and let him develop slightly. So I really see the Warriors as a good landing spot for him. The Heat have been in the same way in how they've been able to develop players and pick guys that fit their system well. So I mean, really, any of those teams, bottom of the first round. I like the Heat, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, and the Nuggets. Now, personally, for my Nuggets, a little bit dubious because of what they really need, which is a lockdown perimeter defender, a guy who can defend on the wing. So I'm not too sure about the Nuggets. I could see it, but really, Golden State is one that makes a lot of sense to me. I know that's going to make Mike Babcock happy. Wouldn't be shocked about the Grizzlies as well, because when you look at a couple years down the road, it'd be hard to defend a team with both Ja Morant as well as Bryce McGowan's on the wing. That would be a tough situation with what those guys can do and how they can get to the rims. That's interesting, but I don't think it makes sense for Memphis based on team needs right now.
That is Elijah Herbel. Mike Babcock is slipping out. We are going to bring in an incredible punt returner, all-conference performer at Nebraska, and part of the Hail Varsity Club kickoff to the 2022 yearbook. It's been a while since we've talked, but it's great to see him doing well in the professional ranks. De'Mornay Pierson-El with us. DPE, it's been quite a while, man.
Yes, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while.
I'm doing all right, man. How about you? Let's switch headsets because, we need to hear you. There we go. De'Mornay Pierson-El is with us here at the Hail Varsity Club. First and foremost, man, thanks for coming up and being part of the yearbook release party.
Oh, no problem. It's good to be back.
Well, and you were on the cover a couple, 3, 4, 5 years ago of the Hail Varsity Yearbook. And, man, it's been fun watching you play ball, and I know you've done work also in the NFL. Give folks a little update on what life is like for you, man.
Man, it's all over the place right now. Last year I was with the Broncos. The year before that, the 2 years before that I was with the Raiders. Free agent right now. Got a couple workouts coming up and everything like that. So hopefully, somebody will stick, and we'll see what's up. I'm not too worried about it. Just back in town. My daughter lives out here, so
okay.
During the off season I'm out here. The majority of the time I actually train.
Okay.
Right down the street at a Beyond Goals gym right here in La Vista. So I mean, I'm here often.
Well, I got to ask you, have you first time at the club?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So they have a incredible menu.
Mm-hmm.
What's if you're putting a menu together? What do you like eating?
It just depends on the mood. Like, I like quesadillas. I like tacos.
All right,
I'm cool with wings.
You're good.
Burgers, tots.
Good.
I like a little bit of everything. So variety is always good. As long as you got a good location, you got good food, and drinks are flowing. I'm gonna have a ball.
De'Mornay Pierson-El, standout with Nebraska, wide receiver, punt returner, and in the NFL, and has some things lined up. So, what I ask you about. What you did so well in Lincoln, and that's score touchdowns, either catching it or returning it, and that needs to happen again for Nebraska. How's it been for you being a former Husker, watching what's been going on?
It's tough. We're right there.
Yeah.
It's not the problems that they were having their first year and their second year aren't the problems that they're having now. So I just think they just got to finish games better. Honestly, like they be right there. Mm-hmm. I was on the team with a couple Hawkeyes players and everything like that, and every week, they in my ear chirping and everything like that. And I told Josie Jewell, I told him, I was like, I still took one back on you, so I don't care.
About two of them.
Yeah. So, and they always, that was the last time y'all beat us, and it's like, bro, whatever, I don't care. Like, it is what it is. But they're right there. They're close. Hopefully they got all the pieces that they need and everything like that, and they can play a full, complete season. That's what I'm looking for and everything like that. The games are fun. They look exciting. I haven't been to a game. I don't know how long. So, I know they, read the whole stadium, I think in the fourth quarter or something like that.
You've been busy. De'Mornay, hang out. A couple more minutes with us. Got to take a quick timeout.
Gotcha.
De'Mornay Pierson-El with us. Husker grade Hail Varsity Club is where we're at. The yearbook release party. Autographs coming up at 6 here in La Vista. Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor. I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
A couple minutes winding down. De'Mornay Pierson-El is here. Deontay Williams showing up as well. Good to see him as the Hail Varsity Club is loading up, and we are excited for the 2022 yearbook release party, autograph session going on with Deontay Williams, De'Mornay Pierson-El. Tommy Armstrong is here, so a lot of great ex-Huskers here. And De'Mornay, we were talking about Denver traffic, but you and Elijah, and I'm like a casual hockey fan, but you're a big Avs guy. Elijah's a big Avs guy. Elijah might, the hotel we were staying at for baseball last weekend had like a throwback hockey jersey. Ooh. Elijah wanted me to make that thing disappear.
I'm pretty sure they would have been on you on that.
Sir, we need to search your bag.
Denver's a wild city for their sports. They're really involved and into it. I went to a number of Nuggets games and whatnot. So they show out. And it's a real spirited sports involved town for sure.
You played for Denver last year, and a thought with one of your old teammates, Randy, going to Denver land.
Just missed him.
Yeah?
Just missed him. We actually went down to Dallas last year. We went down to the Star and beat them down there and everything like that. I seen him and Luke and Forniak, actually. So I talked to him. I talked to Luke a little bit before the game and everything like that. So, it was – Randy's good. He's in a good spot. He'll like Denver a lot, and they gonna love him.
Yeah, he'll get after it. So to put you on the spot here with Nebraska here, tell me a little bit here about. We'll just start with the Northwestern game over in Ireland. What are you thinking here? We're less than 65 days away. That's the springboard, isn't it?
How long before, how long are they going to be over there? Because I think
they're going a week over.
Okay, so the time adjustment and everything like that will be.
Yeah, we're flying over Wednesday.
Ooh, how long is that flight?
I don't know. I stop in Amsterdam, though.
Ooh, bring your neck pillow.
I'm going to bring my blackout juice. That's what I'm going to do.
I think it'll be a good game. Northwestern always plays us tough, so I think it'll be a good game. Of course, I think we pull it out. Hopefully, we pull it out. But that atmosphere is a different culture over there and everything like that. You get to experience a lot. Hopefully, it's not too many distractions. Like I said, they do a good job of preparing and everything like that. Let's just hope they play a full and complete game.
Absolutely. De'Mornay Pierson-El, Husker great. and pro ball player, and they got some things lined up for this fall. Hey, man, it's good to see you.
Likewise.
Always appreciate seeing you. Always just awesome giving the Hail Varsity radio time since his freshman year. Best dude. We'll check in with Deontay Williams as well. Elijah, get ready. I know your abs are ready to rock here. Shortly, Ole Miss got to play OU now, starting Saturday.
Ole Miss won?
They won 2-0 over Arkansas.
Ooh.
Pitcher had 17
Who you think gonna pull it out?
Well, I was going for Arkansas because Dave Van Horn, Nebraska's old coach.
Yeah.
So that was me. But we'll say goodbye, and thanks so much for tuning in. We're here at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista. Get up here, be a part of the Hail Varsity Yearbook release party. Get up here and try incredible items from their scratch kitchen. For Mike Babcock, Erin Sorensen, Brandon Vogel, Elijah Herbel, De'Mornay Pierson-El, Chris Schmidt. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Appreciate you.
A Hurrdat Media Production.